Hello, my name is Rachel. Welcome to my channel. I am the work wife, and today's video is going to be about, is it ADHD or is it avoidance? But before I jump in, I am a mindset and workplace coach with nearly 20 years of experience navigating some seriously toxic work environments and dealing with some toxic people. So if you're dealing with a situation like that right now, where you have decided to stay at a job that is toxic, or you're working with people who are toxic, I can assist you in how to deal with that day to day. So feel free to email me at theworkwifellc@gmail.com or send me a message on Instagram, and I'll leave the link below. And I also have a TikTok. You can also reach me there. And please kindly subscribe and like this video. It really helps my channel grow and get out to more people. So there's this hum in the background. There's some truck here, so pardon the background. Oh, it just stopped. Oh, I got used to it. Anyway, hopefully it doesn't start again. So the reason for this video, I just started. Anywho, I'll try to make this quick. The reason I thought about this video is because, you know, a lot of times with ADHD, you know, well, I have the inattentive type, and we get easily distracted, and we forget appointments, and we forget meetings and people's birthdays and various things, right? And also dealing with procrastination as one side effect. It's like, you know, you get easily overwhelmed, and then you have all these tasks that you have to deal with, and then you procrastinate, and then it just looms larger and larger and larger. So procrastination is a form of avoidance. But the reason I wanted to bring up this topic is that the concept of ghosting, I'm frankly kind of tired of it. And it has, you know, I hadn't even heard of what ghosting was probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. I didn't even know what it was. And, you know, I discovered quickly, you know, I guess I looked it up, or, you know, people said, oh, you know, people are getting ghosted left and right. And I guess that it started happening to me from a professional perspective in discovering post-lockdown, and everybody started reemerging from their domiciles and getting out into the world again, that somehow the idea of customer service completely went out the friggin' window. And I don't know what I expected. I think I expected people to be, well, you know what, let me take that back. I think I expected people to be so grateful to be out and about that they would be more than excited to interact and start new businesses, or restart businesses that had gone by the wayside, or reconnect with customers, or reconnect with people. The opposite was true. I mean, I guess there was a lot of frustration all the way around, and people, if you applied for a job and you were told you had an offer, the offer never materialized, and when you reached out to them, you never heard back. Or if a company said they were going to get back to you about an interview, usually in all my years of experience, they do get back to you. Maybe they don't get back to you right then, you know, like the same day or the next day, but they do get back to you because they're, you know, they know you're waiting, right? They say, oh, we've decided to go with someone else, or they give you an offer. No, you just never hear from these people again. Even it comes down to small businesses. You know, just all of a sudden in the last 2 years, or a year and a half, people who had been, you know, working, whom I had hired or whatever, just suddenly decided to stop. Like, they just didn't come back, right? So even from a commercial or a business perspective, ghosting seems to have become the norm. But the reason I bring this up when it comes to ADHD is that you know, sometimes as someone who gets easily distracted, you may be accused of ghosting, or, you know, you never showed up for this, or you didn't hand this in, or you didn't get back to this person. And I consider all that, I mean, yes, there are ways to manage that, but I don't consider that ghosting. I consider that just being chronically forgetful or careless, if you really want to be more negative about it. And then as someone who knows that issue or that issue has been brought to your attention, you have to do something about that to manage that better, because you can't continue to forget about meetings or assignments, or you have a task due to your boss or something like that. It can't continue, or you're just going to get fired, or you know what I mean, you're just going to have a bad reputation and people can't rely on you. You'll be known as not dependable, not reliable. Well, there's a difference between that and being deliberately avoidant. There's a difference between that. As I mentioned, the people who, let's say I hired somebody to clean my pool or whatever, and they just never came back again, right? I mean, you want to say, don't you want to get paid? No, apparently they don't. But that's what I'm talking about. It's deliberate. And maybe something happened, and that's what I thought. Things happen. People get sick, but for me personally, and maybe because I'm a Gemini, but I've met Geminis who don't communicate, so that's not necessarily an automatic thing. How hard is it to communicate that you're struggling? How hard is it to communicate that, you know what, we're closing up shop, it's too much trouble, overhead, whatever? How hard is it to communicate to someone and say, I'm having difficulty, or I'm not feeling great, or I really don't have the energy, or I don't have the wherewithal, or I don't have the support, or I don't have what I need in order to communicate with you effectively, in order to complete this, in order to be there for you, right? And what's happened in today's culture is that it's like, you don't want to admit that you don't have the energy, or you don't have the support, or you don't have the finances, or you don't have the words. You don't want to admit that. So it's just easier just to friggin' disappear. And now it's like normalized, like, oh, ghosting happens. It's, no big deal. It is though. And I'm not going to acclimate with the times and just be like, oh, well, this is the new thing, I guess I got to get used to. I'm not. If I've accidentally forgotten about something or a meeting or whatever, whether it's because of my forgetfulness or not, if I, just have or I've double booked something, or, I had the wrong day, whatever the case might be, I apologize. And I make sure that it doesn't happen again. It's called being responsible. It's called being accountable. It's called being an adult. And I'm finding that too many adults, men and women, engage in this behavior, yet they complain about connection. They complain about, well, no one's showing up for me. Well, are you showing up for them? Are you showing up for yourself? Or are you just saying, oh, well, girl, I just forgot. And I said, well, did you call them? Did you tell them what happened? No, because, I know they're just no, you don't know what they're going to do. At the very least, yeah, maybe they'll still be upset. They'll be mad. You'll maybe get some sort of, I don't know, whether it's a job or something, maybe they won't look at you the same, or they'll be disappointed, or whatever the emotion is, whether it's personal or professional. But at the very least, they're going to appreciate a fucking apology. Pardon my French. They're going to appreciate the apology. And it angers me because, and this is my mini rant on it, because we're normalizing being assholes. We're normalizing disconnection. We're normalizing avoidance. And much is made about attachment theory, and, people have, anxiously attached, or fearfully, attached, or disorganized, or dismissively avoidant, or malignantly avoidant, whatever it is, right? We've all managed to figure out where we fall in that spectrum, and understand the reasons why we fall in the spectrum that we do. But I don't use my anxiety as an excuse to be an asshole. I don't use my anxiety as an excuse to be deliberately unkind to people. And I'm finding that across the board. Social media, interpersonal relationships, people just give up midway. and provide no context, no explanation. And then the problem becomes the person at the other end of this is like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do? I don't know what happened. I don't get a reason. I don't know what I did. And you're just left having to handle it on your own, because you're not going to get that closure necessarily. If the person's ghosted, they're ghosted. They're not going to be like, oh, let me come back and explain what happened. No, they're gone. It would be nice if they came back and explained, but let's say so much time has passed that it's almost like kind of ridiculous if they did. But I'm finding that the more people, it's funny, people are more interested than ever in what's going on inside their minds, inside their hearts, inside their bodies. They want to know the root. They want to know the diagnosis. They want to understand themselves from a physical and mental health perspective. But at the same time, they go, well, I don't have time for you. And I'm not talking about toxic people now. I'm talking about people who've done you no harm. People who you interact with every day. People whom you work with, people whom you live with, people whom you deal with every day, or people who you're in a relationship with. I've even heard that. People in relationships for years. I mean, exclusively, you think. And all of a sudden one person's like, bye. And you're like, well, what happened? Ghosted. It's not just for superficial relationships. We're talking about long-standing relationships where someone's just decided, I'm done. And I'm not giving you an explanation. Don't allow whatever you're going through to use as an excuse to be mean and hateful to other people and unkind, because that's mean. That's what's happened. Is no, we no longer want to say things are mean because then we think we're whining. No. You can identify something as mean. What that person did was mean. What that person does was mean-spirited. What that person did was upsetting. What that person did was hurtful. I felt hurt. I felt ignored. I felt dismissed. I felt like I didn't matter. I felt I wasn't worth your time. You've left someone feeling like that, either professionally or personally. You're responsible for that. And nowadays, we're going to say, well, I was going through something at the time. Well, I'm sure you were. It's called avoidance. That's what you were going through. If you have responsibilities and you're an adult and you're going through something, it is then on you to communicate that to other people. Don't expect people to read your mind. Don't expect people to read the tea leaves from your behavior and say, oh, well, she must be going through something. That's why she didn't show up 3 days in a row. No. It's as if we're curious about the inner workings, but we're not so curious about our impact. We don't care about that. They'll just deal with it. They'll know. No, they don't. So, unfortunately, this thing that I had literally just heard of a couple of years ago is now the norm. Or accepted. Let's not say norm, because I don't want it to be the norm. It's accepted. It's accepted. It's accepted behavior. And you know what that does? It just lowers the bar of our standards. It just lowers the bar. So then, you know what's going to happen? People getting ghosted actually getting communication. It's going to be like, yay, oh my God, they answered me. When that should be the norm. We're celebrating getting responses. We're celebrating getting communication when that should be a given. That's how low the bar has gotten in terms of human interaction and communication. That's how low it's gotten. Where we actually expect or anticipate people to be assholes. So when they're not, we want to give them the Nobel Prize. No. So my little rant has to do with human behavior. It has to do with human tendencies. It has to do that our standards for interpersonal relationships, what we expect from our professional relationships has gotten so low that things that should be normal, common courtesy and respect and being polite and civil are considered gargantuan efforts these days. That we're congratulating people for being respectful. Thank you so much for doing me the honor of responding to me. 3 weeks later. Yeah, that's unfortunately the direction that we're headed. You know, one way to solve this: don't do it yourself and don't accept it from other people. Now, it's kind of hard if you've reached out to the person who disappeared on you or who avoided you. I always own the fact that I'm forgetful, depending on the audience. I own the fact that, like, if I miss someone's birthday, I apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to write something down, which is true. I have to write it down. If I don't write it down, even when it comes to ideas I have about things, like I could be in the middle of walking somewhere, I'm like, oh, and I'm so desperate to hold on to that idea. Like, I'm like, God dang it, I don't have a piece of paper. And then I forget it by the time. It's like so annoying, you know? I'm talking about, you know, when you are forgetful like that, sometimes maybe you just have to own it ahead of time. And I'm not saying make an excuse, but I'm just saying I have this tendency, right? So if someone's giving you information and you say, look, I will not remember what you're telling me. I need a piece of paper. I'm going to write this down. You do it. But what I was going to say, the second part of that is don't accept it from other people. If we collectively stop accepting bad behavior, the bad behavior will no longer be normalized. So everybody's talking about ghosting like it's fun or cute or something like that. I was ghost that. Fuck that shit. There's nothing fun about it. There's nothing funny about it. So let's stop. Let's stop the narrative that just because these things seem to be happening more often, that we all have to tuck tail and say, yeah, okay, this is the way the world works. No. So if someone's doing it to you and then they come back and pretend like nothing happened, do not accept that. Do not be like, well, okay, no. Now that person's on notice. Just so, and professionally, you say, well, just so you know, because you did that, we had to give the project to somebody else, and then you won't be getting any projects going forward because you're not reliable, because you provided no explanation. You don't accept it. There's a consequence. In personal relationships, the person comes back and you're just like, yeah, well, sorry, I moved on. Yeah, but yeah, no, I moved on. I don't accept that behavior. It's unnecessary. If you've got an issue, speak to it. You don't have to write chapter and verse, but you do have to say, look, I am having a hard time because of XYZ, and I need to handle my business. I'm going to be, hermit crabbing for a while, whatever you have to say. I'm going to be a hermit for a while. I'm not really going to be communicating much. I'll try to touch base with you once in a while, blah, blah, blah. That takes literally 30 seconds to a minute to explain that and give the person context, manage their expectations. Done. So that's my video for today. It really didn't have to do much about ADHD actually, but it has happened that I've forgotten about things and forgotten about meetings and appointments and gotten things wrong, and then I apologize profusely. I don't just go like, well, ADHD. No, I don't do that. Or I was tired, or whatever the reason was. No, it's called being responsible. It's called being an adult. So, if you don't want bad behavior to continue, then stop accepting it, or stop being resigned to it, and just say, well, this is the generation today. No, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you're a boomer or a Gen Xer like me, or a millennial, or whatever the other exennial, I don't care what generation you are. Rude is rude, polite is polite. I think we can all agree, a reasonable person would agree, what polite behavior is and what rude behavior is. So let's stop assigning certain behaviors to certain generations as acceptable over here and unacceptable over there, and just say, no, this is unacceptable, whether it's in the personal environment or professional environment. And guess what? People will stop doing it. It ain't cute. So, with that, I hope that you, can relate. If you can't, or you can, I'd love it if you left a comment below, and I will, and stay cool, stay centered, of course, and I will see you in the next video.